Hey young friends, Dr. Bill here. Thanks so much for joining me today. You may recall that over the last few weeks we've been talking about some of the main characters in the story of Jesus' birth. Today we're going to focus on the shepherds. Now Luke is the one who tells us about their part in the Christmas story. And it's really not surprising that Luke would include the shepherds in his account of how Jesus came into this world. You may recall from an earlier lesson that one of the things we noted was that Luke pays attention to the little people. Luke pays attention to the people that we don't always know their names. They're people that are easily overlooked. They're people who are kind of on the margin of things. Well, the shepherds fit that category. In that day and time, people did not always hold shepherds in high regard. They had a job tending sheep that took almost all of their time. So they were outside a lot. And as a consequence of being outside and being around sheep, they didn't smell so good. As well, the shepherds, by virtue of their work, could not always attend the important festivals and worship services that took place in Jerusalem, nor could they keep all of the commandments. So as a result, people tended to look down on the shepherds. They were not necessarily held in high regard. Nevertheless, Luke tells us that they played a prominent role in the story of Jesus' birth. Here's how it goes. One evening, the shepherds were in the field, tending their sheep, watching over them as shepherds always do. Suddenly, the night sky was lit up by an appearance of a host of angels. And one angel in particular spoke and said to the shepherds, "Don't be afraid, don't be terrified, but instead I want you to know I'm bringing good news to you. A child has been born, which will be the Savior of the world." And the angel went on to say, "Here's how you'll recognize the child. You'll find him wrapped up in swaddling clothes and resting in a manger, that is, a feed trough." With that, the angels disappeared, and the shepherds looked at each other and said, "We've got to go find out. We've got to go see who this child is." And so, as Luke tells us, they, without any delay, they hurriedly ran to find the Christ child. And when they did, they told Mary, his mother, all that they had experienced, and they rejoiced in the birth of this new baby. And then they left and returned to their flocks. Well, there's several important things that we can take away from the story of the shepherds. The first is they had to do something that was kind of risky. Luke tells us that they made haste. They left their flocks behind and they went to find the Christ child. Now, the one thing a shepherd never ever does is leave the flock untended. Luke seems to imply that all of the shepherds left the sheep in order for all of them to go and find the Christ child. So in other words, they were putting their own livelihoods at risk to do this important thing. That tells me that sometimes God asks us to do things that are kind of uncomfortable, things that require that we let go of our usual routine in order to discover what God is up to. The shepherds did that. The second thing that Luke emphasizes is that the shepherds went to see for themselves. It wasn't enough for them to hear the announcement. They had to go and discover. And what that tells me as well is there's no such thing as a second-hand faith. In other words, you and I can't claim to be faithful or followers of Jesus simply because our parents were or our grandparents were. We can't claim to be followers of Jesus just because we attend worship. No, we have to go and see for ourselves. There's a point at which our faith has to be ours. No one else can do our believing for us. So the shepherds, by their example, show us that there's no such thing as a second-hand faith. And then finally, it's this. We're told that after they had discovered the Christ child, they left the manger scene and they announced to everybody they saw what they had seen and what they had heard. In other words, the good news was too good to keep to themselves. Now, we've had experiences like that, haven't we? Maybe something wonderful happens. Maybe we get that toy or that gift that we've always wanted for Christmas, and we're so excited about it that we call our best friend and say, "Hey, guess what I got?" Or maybe as adults, we say, "There's good news. Somebody's out of the hospital. Somebody's no longer sick," and we can't wait to tell other people, "Hey, something wonderful has happened." Well, that's true of our faith. Now, this is kind of uncomfortable for most of us, but one of the things the Scriptures tell us to do, and one of the things the shepherds model for us, is the importance of bearing witness, of speaking of what we have seen and what we have experienced from the hand of God. We don't do that in an overpowering way. We don't do that in a way that disrespects others. But there's a time and a place to say, here's what I've seen. Here's what I've experienced. God did this. And when we do that, we're playing exactly the role the shepherds played. We're announcing the good news of Jesus Christ. Well, that'll do it for today. I hope that if you have any questions, you won't hesitate to give me a call, send me an email, a text, whatever. I'm available to answer your questions or to have a conversation with you whenever you'd like. In the meantime, I hope the rest of this week goes well for you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. You take care, and God bless. Bye-bye.